Welcome to another journey through time, where the past whispers secrets of beauty and sacrifice. As the world quiets and the night settles in, join me in a candlelit tale from ancient China's story of Lotus feet, where elegance was crafted through pain.
This is the Chinese foot binding process, in which when a girl was 5 years old, all her toes except the toe were bent under her sole and tied tightly with bandages, which gradually broke the arches and toes of the foot and created a smaller, more desirable foot, also known as lotus feet.
Settle into your cozy space. Let the modern world fade, and let's step into a realm of silk, sorrow, and resilience. If you love history's strange tales, hit that subscribe button and let's begin. Close your eyes and let the clamor of the modern world dissolve into silence. Picture a moonlit courtyard in 11th century China, where the air carries the delicate scent of jasmine and the soft rustle of silk robes. Lanterns sway gently in the breeze, casting golden shadows on a lotus pond, its petals glowing like tiny stars against the inky water. This is the world of the Song dynasty, a realm of poetry, refinement, and unrelenting ideals. Here, duty is not merely a desire, it is a mandate, a silent covenant that shapes lives and forges legacies. Tonight, we embark on a journey into one of history's most haunting beauty rituals, the practice of foot binding, known as the creation of lotus feet, a ritual that promised elegance but exacted a lifelong toll. Settle in, relax, and let's step into this mesmerizing, heart-wrenching chapter of the past. The story begins in a time when China was a tapestry of contrasts. Innovation flourished alongside tradition, and beauty was a currency as vital as gold. The practice of foot binding, which would span over a millennium from the 10th century to the early 20th century, was not merely a fashion, but a cultural institution. To understand its grip on society, we must travel back to the Song dynasty, where the seeds of this ritual were sown, and explore the forces that made lotus feet a symbol of feminine perfection. As you listen, imagine the weight of tradition, the whispers of poets, and the dreams of mothers shaping their daughters' futures. The origins of foot binding are shrouded in myth, but historians like Dorothy Cole, in her seminal work Cinderella's Sisters 2005, trace its beginnings to the late Tang or early Song dynasty. Around the 10th century, one popular legend tells of Emperor Li Yu of the southern Tang, whose concubine Yan Yang bound her feet to dance on a lotus-shaped platform, enchanting the court with her delicate steps. Whether apocryphal or rooted in truth, this tale captures the era's obsession with refined movement and ethereal aesthetics. By the Song dynasty 960 to 1279, foot binding had taken hold among the elite, becoming a marker of wealth and refinement. A woman with lotus feet signaled her family's status. She was spared manual labor, her mobility restricted to the inner quarters, a living emblem of leisure and privilege. The Song dynasty was a golden age of Chinese culture, marked by advancements in poetry, painting, calligraphy, and porcelain. Urban centers like Kaifeng bustled with scholars and merchants, their wealth fueling a voracious appetite for aesthetics. Women's beauty became a canvas for cultural expression, adorned with intricate hairpins, flowing silk kipa, and delicately painted faces. The ideal woman, as described in Song poetry by luminaries like Li Qingjia, was delicate, almost ethereal, her movements likened to a willow swaying in the breeze. Lotus feet, with their tiny, curved shape, embodied this ideal, transforming the natural foot into a work of artifice that captivated the imagination. Confucianism, the philosophical backbone of Chinese society, played a pivotal role in cementing foot binding's place. The doctrine emphasized rigid gender roles. Men dominated the public sphere, while women were confined to the domestic realm, their virtue measured by obedience, chastity, and service to family. Small feet were seen as a physical manifestation of this virtue, a way to ensure women remained inside the home, both literally and figuratively. Historians like Patricia Buckley Embry in The Inner Quarters 1993 argue that foot binding reinforced patriarchal control, limiting women's mobility to preserve their fidelity and dependence. Yet, it was also a paradox. Women themselves perpetuated the practice, as mothers bound their daughters' feet to secure their futures. The ritual spread was tied to economic shifts. The Song dynasty's commercial boom, driven by trade along the Silk Road and maritime routes, created a burgeoning merchant class eager to emulate the gentry's aesthetic ideals. Women with bound feet, unable to toil in fields or markets, became symbols of prosperity, their labor redirected to delicate tasks like embroidery or weaving, which were highly valued. By the Yuan dynasty 1271 to 1368, foot binding had trickled down to merchants, and by the Ming dynasty 1368 to 1644, it was a near universal expectation among Han Chinese women. Even peasant families, aspiring to climb the social ladder, bound their daughters' feet, hoping to marry them into wealthier households. But beauty in this era was not merely poetic, it was a matter of economic survival. Marriage was the cornerstone of social mobility, a strategic alliance that could elevate a family's status or secure its wealth. For a daughter, Lotus feet were a valuable asset, signaling her eligibility for a match with the gentry or elite. Families invested heavily in the ritual, viewing it as an investment in their daughter's future. The Book of Filial Piety, a Confucian classic, underscored the duty of daughters to honor their families through marriage, making foot binding a painful but necessary rite of passage. A girl with unbound feet faced dim prospects, her family shamed in the eyes of society. The cultural significance of lotus feet extended far beyond the marriage market. Bound feet were fetishized in art and literature, with men composing odes to their delicate shape and women crafting tiny embroidered shoes as tokens of affection or courtship gifts. The Jin Ping'e, a Ming Dynasty novel, describes the allure of bound feet in vivid, often sensual detail, reflecting their eroticization in the cultural psyche. These feet, hidden beneath layers of silk, became a private art form, a symbol of intimacy and refinement. Yet this romantic veneer masked a darker reality. The process was grueling, often beginning when girls were as young as 4. The pain of foot binding was seen as a necessary sacrifice, a test of endurance that prepared women for their roles as wives and mothers in a society that prized suffering as a path to virtue. Mothers, themselves bearers of bound feet, bound their daughters' feet out of love, believing it was their only chance for a better life. This paradox, love intertwined with pain, lies at the heart of the story, a thread that weaves through the centuries and draws us closer to the women who lived it. The practice was a cultural theater, a performance of gender and status played out on the delicate canvas of a woman's body. By the Qing dynasty 1644 to 1912, foot binding had become so entrenched that it defined Han Chinese identity, distinguishing them from Manchu women who were forbidden to bind their feet under imperial decree. This cultural divide only deepened the practice's hold, as Han families clung to it as a marker of tradition and pride in the face of Manchu rule. The ritual's persistence across centuries was a testament to its deep entanglement with social, economic, and cultural forces, creating a legacy that would endure long after the Song dynasty's lanterns faded. To the modern Western mind, foot binding may seem an act of cruelty, a relic of a bygone era, yet to the women of the Song, Ming, and Qing dynasties, it was a path to security in a world of limited choices. The lotus feet they crafted were not just a physical transformation, but a cultural covenant, binding them to their families, their society, and their futures. As we drift deeper into this world, let's step into the quiet rooms where the ritual unfolded, where silk bandages and tiny shoes transform young girls into bearers of lotus feet. Let's uncover the process itself, the meticulous, agonizing steps that crafted this golden lotus, and the cultural forces that made such a practice endure for 1,000 years. As you listen, let the whispers of the past guide you, carrying you into a world where beauty was both a gift and a burden. The story of Lotus Feet is not just a tale of pain, but a testament to resilience, a reminder of the lengths we go to belong, to be seen, to be loved. Stay with us as we prepare to explore the heart of this ritual, where a mother's hands and a daughter's courage wove a legacy that would echo through time. Now, imagine a quiet room in a Ming Dynasty household, its walls adorned with painted scrolls and a bamboo screen casting intricate shadows. A young girl, no older than 5, sits on a low stool, her face a mask of apprehension. Before her kneels her mother, holding a long strip of vermilion silk bandage, its hue blowing in the flicker of a single candle. The air is heavy with the scent of ginger and mugwort, a herbal soak meant to soften the flesh. This is the beginning of a ritual that will shape the girl's life, the creation of Lotus Feet, a beauty so revered it demands a lifetime of sacrifice. Let's uncover the meticulous, heart-wrenching process of foot binding and why it held such power over generations of Chinese women. The room is still, save for the soft rustle of the mother's kippah as she prepares the tools of her task: a wooden bowl, a pile of neatly folded bandages, and a pair of tiny embroidered shoes, no larger than a child's palm. The girl's eyes dart between her mother's steady hands and the shoes, their peony patterns glimmering with promise. This moment, steeped in love and duty, is the first step in a journey of transformation. As you listen, picture the weight of tradition pressing down. The candles glow a silent witness to a ritual both beautiful and brutal. The ritual of foot binding was a feat of endurance, both physical and emotional, typically begun between ages 4 and 6. When a girl's bones were still pliable, the timing was deliberate, young enough to mold the foot, old enough to withstand the pain. Historical accounts, such as those in The Dream of the Red Chamber 18th century, describe the process with a mix of reverence and sorrow, noting its necessity for a woman's future. The goal was to create a foot no longer than 3 inches, the coveted golden lotus, or San Kanjin Leon, a shape that curved like a crescent moon and fit into delicate, embroidered shoes. The process began with careful preparation, a ritual in itself. The girl's feet were soaked in a warm decoction of herbs, ginger, mugwort, and sometimes animal blood to soften the skin and reduce the risk of infection. Fingernails were trimmed to prevent them from piercing the flesh during binding. This step often took place in winter, as the cold numbed the feet, dulling the initial pain. Mothers or grandmothers, themselves bearers of bound feet, performed the task, their hands steady, but their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. The act was a paradox of love and cruelty, a mother's attempt to secure her daughter's place in a world that prized small feet above all else. Next came the binding itself, a process as precise as it was agonizing. The 4 smaller toes were folded under the sole, pressed tightly against the foot's underside, often breaking the bones with a sickening crack. The arch was then forced upward, creating a high, unnatural curve that compressed the foot into a pointed shape. A silk or cotton bandage, typically 3 meters long and 5 centimeters wide, was wrapped around the foot in a figure-8 pattern, pulling tighter with each pass. The bandage forced the heel and toes closer together, reshaping the foot into the desired lotus form. The pain was excruciating, described in oral histories as a fire that never ceased, a relentless burning that left girls weeping or screaming into the night. The first binding was only the beginning. Every few days, the bandages were unwrapped, the foot cleaned to prevent infection, and rebound even tighter. This process, lasting 2 to 3 years, gradually reshaped the foot, breaking and resetting bones until the desired size was achieved. Historical texts, like those compiled by the Qing dynasty scholar Zhao Yi, note that the ideal foot was not only small but also symmetrical, with a high arch and a delicate point resembling a crescent moon. The resulting lotus foot was a grotesque marvel, beautiful to the eye, but a source of constant pain, a testament to the endurance required to achieve it. The ritual was fraught with risks, as the tight bandages created a breeding ground for infection. Moisture and debris trapped beneath the bindings could lead to ulcers, where folded toes pressed against the sole. Ingrown nails sometimes pierced the flesh, causing abscesses that, if untreated, could turn gangrenous. Historical records estimate that 10% of girls died from complications, a grim statistic that families accepted as the price of beauty. The Young Jing Emperor's edicts, 1722 to 1735 document failed attempts to ban foot binding, underscoring its deep cultural entrenchment despite the dangers. Yet the ritual was not just a physical act, it was a cultural theater, a performance of gender and devotion. Mothers taught their daughters to endure, framing the pain as a test of character, a preparation for the sacrifices of womanhood. Songs and stories, passed down through generations, glorified lotus feet, promising wealth and love to those who persevered. Girls were given tiny shoes, often embroidered with peonies or phoenixes, as incentives to continue. These shoes, preserved in museums like the Bata Shoe Museum in Toronto, were works of art, crafted with silk and gold thread, their delicate beauty belying the suffering they represented. The lotus walk, the swaying gait of a woman with bound feet, was celebrated as a pinnacle of grace, Likened to a willow bending in the wine, men found it erotic, a fact exploited in literature like the Jin Pingmei, which details the allure of bound feet in intimate settings. The walk was not merely aesthetic, it was a necessity, as the deformed feet made stable movement impossible. Women learned to balance on their heels, their steps small and deliberate, a performance that captivated onlookers but exacted a toll on their bodies. The cultural fetishization of this gait turned pain into an art form, a paradox that defined the ritual's allure. Women, confined to the inner quarters, found a form of agency in the ritual's artistry. They crafted exquisite lotus shoes, embroidering them with intricate patterns that expressed individuality and skill. These shoes, often no larger than a teacup, were not just footwear but symbols of resilience, a way for women to reclaim a piece of their identity in a world that bound their bodies. Yet this agency came at a cost. Mobility was sacrificed, and daily tasks like fetching water or tending children became arduous, often requiring assistance from servants or family. The ritual's universality cemented its cultural power. By the Ming and Qing dynasties, foot binding was practiced across social classes, from imperial consorts to peasant daughters. Even Manchu women, exempt from the practice under imperial decree, faced pressure to mimic small feet with platform shoes. The ritual's entrance was a testament to its roots in Confucian ideals, economic incentives, and aesthetic obsession. It was a rite of passage that bound women to their families and their society, a painful covenant that promised beauty but delivered sacrifice. As the candle in our Ming Dynasty room flickers, the young girl's feet, now tightly bound, mark the beginning of a lifelong journey. The lotus shoes beside her, so delicate and small, hold the promise of a better future, but at what cost? The pain she endures is not just her own. It is the pain of generations, woven into the fabric of a culture that revered beauty above all. As we leave this quiet room, let's carry the weight of her sacrifice forward into a world where the consequences of this ritual, both physical and social, would shape lives for centuries. The story of Lotus Feet is not just about pain. It is about the courage of those who endured it, the mothers who bound their daughters' feet out of love, and the daughters who walked a path paved with tradition. As you drift deeper into this tale, let's explore the price of this beauty, the toll it took on bodies, minds, and society, and the echoes it leaves in our modern world. Stay with us as the whispers of the past guide us to the next chapter. As the candlelight flickers in our Ming Dynasty room, the young girl with newly bound feet gazes at her tiny silk shoes, their peony embroidery glowing in the soft glow. Her face, once bright with hope, now carries the weight of pain that will define her life. The lotus feet she sought, the golden lotuses of legend, have come at a cost far greater than she could imagine. Let's explore the consequences of this haunting ritual, its lasting impact on Chinese society, and the echoes it leaves in our modern world. As you listen, let this story carry you into a place of reflection where beauty and sacrifice intertwine like threads in a silken tapestry. The room fades, and we see her years later, now a woman, her steps slow and deliberate, her lotus feet hidden beneath a flowing kippah. The promise of beauty has been fulfilled, but the price is etched in every step she takes. The ritual that shaped her feet also shaped her life, binding her to a world of tradition and expectation. As we drift through this final chapter, imagine the weight of those tiny shoes, not just on her feet, but on her spirit, and consider how their legacy lingers in the beauty standards of today. The immediate consequences of foot binding were as brutal as the ritual itself. The process, which broke bones and reshaped flesh, caused excruciating pain that lingered for years. Girls endured sleepless nights, their feet throbbing beneath tight bandages. Historical accounts, such as those in the story of the stone 18th century, described young girls hobbling on canes, their faces etched with agony. Even after the foot was fully bound, discomfort persisted. The higher arch and folded toes created pressure points, making every step a test of endurance. Women with lotus feet walked with a swaying gait, celebrated as graceful, but born of necessity to avoid falling. Health complications were rampant, a grim shadow cast by the ritual's beauty. The tight bandages, often left in place for days, trapped moisture and debris, leading to infections. Ulcers formed where folded toes pressed against the sole, and ingrown nails could pierce the flesh, causing abscesses. If untreated, these wounds could lead to gangrene, requiring amputation or resulting in death. Historians estimate that 1 in 10 girls died from complications, a statistic that underscores the ritual's brutality. Elderly women with bound feet, interviewed in the 20th century by scholars like Joe Farrell in Living History, recalled losing toes to infection, their feet permanently scarred by the process. Mobility was another casualty, perhaps the most profound. Women with lotus feet could not walk long distances or perform physical labor, confining them to the inner quarters of their homes. This immobility reinforced Confucian ideals of female subservience, aligning with the doctrine's emphasis on women's domestic roles. Daily tasks like fetching water or tending children became arduous, often requiring assistance from servants or family. In rural areas where labor was essential, bound feet were a luxury, yet even peasant women adopted the practice, hoping to marry into wealth. The Qing Gazette 19th century documents cases of women falling and breaking hips in old age, a direct result of their unstable gait. The physical toll was compounded by the psychological burden. The pain of binding was a constant reminder of a woman's duty to her family, a test of endurance that began in childhood and never truly ended. Girls were taught to suppress their cries, to see suffering as a mark of virtue. Yet the fear of failure loomed large. A poorly bound foot, too large or asymmetrical, could ruin marriage prospects, bringing shame to the family. The Book of Rites, a Confucian text, emphasized filial piety, pressuring girls to endure the ritual to honor their parents, a weight that shaped their sense of self. The social consequences were equally profound. Lotus feet were a double-edged sword. They elevated a woman's status, but also exposed her to relentless scrutiny. A perfect lotus foot was a source of pride, but any imperfection, swelling, infection, or improper shape could lead to gossip and ostracism. The pressure to conform was immense, as unbound feet were seen as a mark of low status or barbarity. Families invested heavily in the ritual, not just in bandages and shoes, but in the emotional labor of enforcing it, a cycle perpetuated by mothers who had endured it themselves. Yet, within this oppressive framework, women found ways to resist and connect. In embroidery circles, They gathered to craft lotus shoes, sharing stories of pain and resilience. These gatherings, documented by anthropologist Hill Gates, were a form of community, a space where women could express themselves through art and conversation. The shoes they created, often adorned with peonies or phoenixes, were not just footwear but symbols of identity, a way to reclaim agency in a world that bound their bodies. This camaraderie was a quiet rebellion, a testament to their strength within the confines of tradition. Foot binding's cultural impact was vast, shaping Chinese aesthetics for centuries. Tiny lotus shoes became objects of desire, displayed in homes like fine porcelain. The Jin Pingmei and other Ming novels fetishized bound feet, embedding them in the cultural psyche as symbols of beauty and intimacy. Yet the practice also drew criticism. Reformers like Kong Yu in the late Qing dynasty condemned foot binding as a symbol of backwardness, arguing it weakened China in the face of Western imperialism. Anti-foot binding societies emerged in the 1890s, supported by missionaries who saw the practice as barbaric. But change was slow, as tradition held a vice-like grip. The ritual's decline began in the early 20th century, spurred by the 1911 Shanghai Revolution, which ended the Qing dynasty and ushered in a push for modernization. Foot binding was banned in 1912, but it persisted in rural areas until the 1930s. Elderly women with bound feet, photographed in the 1990s by Joe Farrell, bore witness to its lingering legacy. Their stories, collected in Living History, Bound Feet Women of China, reveal a mix of pride and regret. Pride in their beauty, regret for the pain that defined their lives. Some spoke of their lotus feet as a badge of honor, others as a prison they could never escape. The echo of foot binding resonates in modern beauty culture, a haunting parallel that bridges past and present. While we no longer bind feet, the pursuit of physical perfection persists. High heels, which restrict movement and cause pain, mirror the lotus walk's aesthetic sacrifice. Cosmetic surgeries, from rhinoplasty to foot reshaping, reflect the same desire to conform to societal ideals. Social media filters, altering features with a tap, are a digital descendant of foot binding's transformative promise. Fashion historian Valerie Steele notes that modern beauty standards, like Victorian corsets or Chinese lotus feet, often prioritize appearance over health, a reminder that the pressure to be beautiful remains as potent as ever. The story of foot binding is a mirror held up to our own time, reflecting the lengths we go to for beauty, status, and acceptance. The women who endured it were not mere victims, they were agents, navigating a world of limited choices with courage and sacrifice. Their tiny shoes, preserved in museums, are artifacts of a vanished era, but their legacy lingers in our reflections on beauty's cost. As you drift toward sleep, let their story linger, a whisper from the past, asking what we, too, might sacrifice for the mirror's fleeting approval. The lotus feet of China, delicate and painful, are a testament to the human spirit, to the resilience of those who walked a path paved with tradition. Their story is not just history, it is a question, a challenge to consider the price of beauty in our own lives. As we close this tale, let the soft glow of their memory guide you into dreams, where the past and present weave together in a tapestry of light and shadow. As we leave the candlelit courtyards of imperial China, the story of Lotus feet lingers, a tale of beauty, sacrifice, and the weight of tradition. Those tiny, bound feet, wrapped in silk and pain, were more than a fashion. They were a testament to women's resilience in a world that shaped their bodies and their fates. What do you think? Would you endure such a ritual for beauty? Or is it a price too steep? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this journey through time captivated you, like and subscribe for more tales of history's strange beauty secrets. Thank you for joining me tonight. As you close your eyes, let the whispers of Lotus feet fade, carrying you into dreams where the past blooms softly. Until our next story, good night.